Go with Jesus continuing his ministry and amazing the crowds with miracles. Let's look at verse 21, first of all, in Mark chapter 1. They went into Capernaum, and immediately on the Sabbath he entered the synagogue and taught. So here he is, going into the synagogue to teach. He's going to heal a man with an unclean spirit. But I want to talk a little bit about the setting here, geographically. This miracle occurs, as we mentioned, as the text says, it's going to occur in a synagogue in Capernaum. This particular site has been extensively excavated. There's a 4th century synagogue, 4th century AD synagogue there now that was unearthed. It appears to have been built over the site of a 1st century synagogue, perhaps dating back to the time of Christ, or at least the footprint of the one that was there in the time of Christ. So here is the city of Capernaum on the northeast, west shore, I should say, of the Sea of Galilee. Capernaum of Galilee. Here is an aerial view of it. This was taken by Brother Farrell Jenkins in 2011, and you can see some of the excavation there in the big square, and actually the synagogue, which I'll show you a closer picture of here in a minute. But you see how it's right on the Sea of Galilee. Would have been an ideal fishing village in the day, which is exactly what it was. Peter had a house here, as we'll learn in just a minute. So, very important place for Jesus' work. He was in and out of here a lot, especially in the first year or two of his ministry, and it's mentioned just numerous times in the Gospels. Here is that synagogue in Capernaum. As I said, this is actually the 4th century synagogue built on top of a 1st century synagogue, but it gives you an idea of what it might have looked like, what it might have been like to walk into that synagogue. You see sort of what you might call benches, stone slabs down the sides where the people would sit. You can imagine this being crowded with village people in the day. Jesus in the center of things, healing people, perhaps speaking and doing teaching, reading from Scripture at times, along with the other activities that might be going on in that synagogue. Here I am sitting there a few years back, trying to learn something I think I'm trying to do there. But it's an interesting place. So let's look at this story a little bit further. They were astonished as he's teaching in verse 22 of Mark chapter 1. They're astonished at his teaching, for he taught them as one having authority and not as the scribes. Here's the unique thing about Jesus. Right off the bat, again, we're seeing early on in the Gospel of Mark. He teaches with authority. He doesn't, debate things really as far as trying to figure out what's true. He knows what's true. He's not like one of the rabbis who's just reasoning back and forth, with another rabbi trying to arrive at some conclusion about what's real and what's true. Jesus knows, and so he teaches with that kind of authority. Here's the way it is. Let me explain it to you. That would be what Jesus would say. And so people were impressed with that. They noticed that immediately. His teaching was far and away above and better than what they'd been used to hearing. Well, there was a man in the synagogue with an unclean spirit, and he cried out saying, "Let us alone. What have we to do with you, Jesus of Nazareth? Did you come to destroy us? I know you who you are, the Holy One of God." But Jesus rebuked him, saying, "Be quiet and come out of him." And when the unclean spirit had convulsed him and cried out with a loud voice, he came out of him. They were all amazed, so that they questioned among themselves, saying, "What is this? What new doctrine is this? For with authority he commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him." And immediately the fame of him spread throughout the region. Jesus is so impressive. He's so impressive to all who hear him, to all who see his wonderful works. He goes in, and this demon-possessed man confronts him, identifies him as the Holy One of God. Jesus commands that demon to come out of the man, and it does so straightway. The multitudes are truly amazed. In one translation of verse 27, it says, "What is this? A new doctrine with authority." With authority. The doctrine Jesus teaches is with authority. This section, then, I would encourage you to think about being a section where people are impressed with his authority. They're impressed with the authority of the way he teaches. They're impressed with the authority that he has even over unclean spirits, over demons. They're impressed with a man coming with authority from God. And because of that, many people turn to him. Many people seek him. They seek to be really under his authority. They seek to take their problems to him, their physical problems, and hopefully, as many of them do, their spiritual problems as well. They understand who he is. He has authority because he's the coming king. We need to understand that today. The multitudes are amazed with Jesus' teaching, with his healing power. And so the fame of him spreads all throughout the region.